Hopefully. Hi guys, welcome to my little paintbrush. I am Miss Sarah and today we get to paint Santa and his gingerbread train. I call it the Gingerbread Express. So I hope you guys enjoy yourselves and have a lot of fun. We're going to be using a lot of colors and my favorite brushes. I have a large flat here and I also have a small flat. So you can choose between the two as we go, whichever one works best for you. And I also have a detail brush. A nice one for all the little things that we need to do today. I also have some water. Make sure you have a jar of water or a cup of water and a napkin handy. And then all of my colors on my plate are spread out. See that? That way I don't contaminate them all at once. I want to make sure I have my white separated into 3 piles and then all of my colors laid out for me. So let's go to our screen now, get up close so you can see and follow along with me. There we are. And we have Santa in his train. It's all traced out and ready for us. You can find the pattern on our website if you're not using our paint kit. There we go. All right, so let's start first by taking our flat brush. We want to put it in some water just to loosen up the bristles. Acrylic paint gets thirsty and needs that water, so make sure you always start with some water. I have my red one here, my flat brush, and we're going to warm up by painting our background. My background is a really light pink. You have lots of colors to choose from, so if you want to change that up, go for it. But to get that light pink, you're just going to use a touch of red. See that? And I'm going to mix that touch of red with a lot of white to get that really light pink. And you can go as light or dark as you want. Obviously, the more red you put in there, the darker your pink will be. Okay, so I'm going to go pretty light here. I'm starting on the outside edge of my canvas. I'm going to work my way in towards my train. I'm going to try not to paint inside my image, but if we accidentally do, no big deal. That's the wonderful thing with acrylics, is it's really hard to mess it up. So we're just going to make sure our paint isn't too dry. If you feel like it's not covering your canvas very well, you might just need to add a little water. Okay. I'm going to quickly go here so my paint doesn't dry on me, because I'm going to show you how to add some white streaks in your painting around this train to brighten it up. So as I go, I take my brush here, and I'm just going to add a touch of white to the corner of it. See that? And then as I get close to my train, I face that white towards it and brush around. And that just really brightens up that area around my train and also makes it easier for me. I don't have to get right up close to it and get every little detail just right. It makes it a lot easier. So I'm going to paint quickly around there. And you don't have to go at my pace, right? If you want to, pause the video and take a minute to catch up. Or maybe you're faster than me, because I have a lot of artists that are. I'm usually trying to keep up with them. But that's the great thing with doing this at home. You can go at your own pace. Now, my canvas here, I have cut a little further up. So I'm painting the top. You don't need to do that. You can have that train go straight up to the very top edge of your canvas. Right. But I'm just going to do it so it looks nice. Okay, we're going to go over here on this side and quickly fill in that outside edge. We also love encouraging our artists to wrap the edges of their canvas. That means we paint the sides and the bottom and top. Makes it look really nice. You won't have to frame it or anything. It just looks pretty all on its own. So if you want to take a minute to do that too, wrap it like a present. Makes it all pretty. Okay, so as you can see, I'm adding that white to the corner of my brush as I go to add those bright white streaks around my train. See that? I love to add light any chance I get to a painting. This really brightens it up. So if I can ever add a little more light to it, I do. There you go. Get around those wheels. And again, if you paint inside those wheels a little bit, it's all right. We're coming back to them. I am going to do my best not to. Just makes it a little easier later. And you don't want to lose your image. You want to be able to see those wheels, especially because circles are tricky. Okay, so I'm going to paint around. There we go. Okay, we have our background in. Now if you want a few more streaks, okay, in your background of white, I just add a touch here to the corner of my brush, and I'll come up here and just kind of brush around certain areas of my painting to fill that negative space and to brighten it up. So I'll just add a little bit here to my brush. I'll just swirl it around. Okay. Gives a little character. You can also make it look like it's moving. Puts a little bit of motion into your painting. So I'm going to go up in here, all the way down, and around the wheel with that white. Okay, and around the front of my train. Add some there. And there. There we go. I love it. I love adding that to it. Put a little bit around that edge. There we go. Now again, you can make this darker if you want a darker pink. I did mine pretty light. Okay, now I'm going to rinse my brush. Once you get that background on there, I do have this little section I got to make sure I get. Easy to forget underneath Santa's hand. So don't forget to paint that too. Just a little tiny spot. Just like that. All right. I think we're warmed up and we're ready to start on our train. I'm going to rinse our brush. If you need to pause it for just a second and finish up, go for it. I'll meet you back here. I'm going to rinse my brush out. Perfect. Okay. Now I have Santa's window here. It's also my train color. See that? Okay. But I'm going to do it just slightly lighter. I just add just a little bit of white to mine. You can keep it the same color as your background, or you can do it the same. I mean, up to you. You can lighten it up with me or do it the exact same, okay? So I'm going to add this window here, just coming across and straight down. It meets up with Santa's arm. I'm going to paint that in with my light pink to match my background. Again, doesn't have to be perfect. You're going to come back to this in a little bit and add some other things. This isn't the star of the show, so we're basically just getting that color in there. Just like that. Perfect. Okay, so we have this pink window there. I like to do it now just because I have pink on my brush already. So I just put that window in. I'm going to rinse my brush out. Now we're going to mix some colors to get that gingerbread shade that we want. So the way I get my gingerbread, and everybody's is going to be a little bit different when you're mixing because you're going to see the colors slightly different. All right, so what I'm going to start with is some white. I'm just picking it up here and bringing it over. I always start with a little bit because I want to keep my gingerbread color as light as possible to start with. So I'm going to add some yellow here, mix it in here with my white, okay, and I'm going to get this buttery yellow color, right? Now I'm going to slowly add brown because that brown will take over quickly. Okay, so I just add a little bit of brown at a time. See that? Okay, now I obviously want more brown, but if I add just a little bit at a time, I have a lot more control over the shade of my gingerbread. Okay, so I have this really light brown. I'm actually going to add a little more yellow to mine, but you can kind of eyeball that and decide if you like that yellow in there. And keep it more brown if you want. I'm liking this. I want to keep it light, right, for this first layer. Also, the more white you have in there, the less layer of brown you'll need. It will go on so much better for you. Okay, so I like this shade. It's a good one to start with. So once you get your gingerbread color the way you like, go ahead and just start filling it in. I'm going to start here at the top, work my way down. And when I'm going along these edges, I try really hard not to pick up my brush. And I'm brushing in the direction that the train is going. So this is up and down, right? And as we go around the frosting here on the top, I'm going to make these rainbow shapes. I'm curving it, or smiles. Okay, I'm going to come straight down. Try not to pick up my brush. And brush down in the direction that it's sitting on top of my train. There we go, just like that. Okay, and now we're going to go ahead and paint around here, curving our brush in a hook. As you go around the front of our train, want to curve your brush, try not to pick it up to get that edge. Just like that. We're just going to fill it in. Go all the way up to Santa's arm there. And down. There we go. Okay. I'm going to keep my brush moving that direction to smooth out my paint and keep that gingerbread going in the direction of the train. I'm going to go around these wheels. Okay, we've got the bottom of our window here, our windowsill. Carefully go around that and Santa's beard. Now getting around these wheels is the trickiest part, right? Because circles just take a little time, so we just have to slow down. And I'm going to try not to paint inside those wheels. We're going to come back to our gingerbread and clean up those edges, so don't worry too much about it right now. Right now we're just getting this color on. There we go. Go around this one here. If you need to hold your canvas and get up close for these wheels, you can. I usually do. It's a lot easier. I also like to use the toe of my brush, if you're using a flat brush, to get down into this corner right here on the front of the train. See, and the toe is this tippy point of your brush. So I'll just turn it. It gets me right down there to that corner of my train. Just like that. Perfect. Okay, let's go work on this other side. Quickly fill that in, around the wheel, and just along the bottom there. We want to really try to just use one color for the space of our gingerbread, okay? So hopefully you mixed enough to paint the whole thing. You don't want to switch it out. And it can be tricky to match the color. But just know this isn't your only layer right now. We're going to do one more. Okay, we're going to get all that there. Make sure you add some water if you need to, so you can get up close and smooth it out. Okay, now right here by Santa's arm, it goes up just a little bit, okay, in that corner. It's easy to miss that, so you just want to make sure you go up just slightly. Next to his arm right here, it's kind of a triangle shape. Now I'm going to come up here just above Santa's arm. We're going to fill it in. Remember to do the smile shape as you go along the frosting of the top of the train. There we go. Use the toe of your brush if you need to. It's a tiny little space. Fill it in all the way down to the thumb of Santa. And then I'm just going to brush carefully around his fluffy coat there. Let's try and keep it a straight line down for the window. Now this comes up pretty close. If you don't feel comfortable using the toe of your brush with the flat, you can use a detail or smaller brush to get up into that little corner by his hat. If it's easier for you. We all have different preferences, right? We're creating different things work for different people, so there we go. Okay, I'm going to switch over now to the other side to fill this in. And again, I'm curving it out up here for the frosting at the very top. I want to make sure I keep that curve happening so we can come back and put that white in later. That's Santa's hat. Okay, now when I'm coming down this edge, I'm going to try not to pick up my brush, give myself a clean edge there. Follow it down to the puff on his hat. We'll jump just right under it there, go along his beard and the base of the windowsill. Now we got to get along this edge and see if we can do it without picking up our brush all the way down. Not bad. There we go. The bottom part here. Just follow it around. I'm going pretty quick because this first layer doesn't matter too much. We just really want to just get it on there. That's all we're trying to do is get that layer on there so we can work on it again. Okay, and as we layer, we'll add a little more and you'll start to see all the little details come together. So don't worry too much. Right now we're just quickly putting this on so we can add to it. There we go. Okay, so we have our first gingerbread layer on. Looks really good. We're going to let that dry for just a minute. I'm going to rinse out my brush, make sure it's clean, and I'm making sure my bristles are damp. Okay, because it dries out as you paint. So you need to sometimes get a little more water back into it. Okay. All right, so now for our gingerbread edges, I'm going to show you how we float those edges to darken them up. But first, I want you to just check your gingerbread. Make sure you don't need another layer. If you feel like you need another layer on there, then do it. Because sometimes this brown needs another layer. Or two. Sometimes two. Okay. But as you are floating those edges, you'll be adding some more color to it anyway. But I just quickly go over it. Once you have that first layer, you'll notice a huge difference in your second, and that may be all you need. So I'm just going to quickly go over it and make sure my gingerbread is covered nicely. Also, when I float those edges, I'm going to show you how to do that. You can float or outline them. But as I do it, I like my paint to be slightly wet and not too dry. Okay, so if you do a quick layer, one more layer over here, it'll make it a little easier for you. I'm going to add it in here. You'll see I'm not having to be as careful, right? Because we already got that first layer on. Makes it so much easier for the second one. You don't have to worry as much about getting close to those edges. We're just getting that quick coverage. There we have it. Okay, so it's all ready. I'll show you two ways to do this. Some of our younger artists prefer not to float. So if you don't want to, I have another option for you. So these outside edges of my train are darker, okay? And I just use this dark brown here, and you can use a detail brush, which is a nice thin line brush. That. You can put some brown on it, and you can follow your edges just like this with that dark brown. You can see and go all the way around, okay? Some of our artists prefer that. Or you can take your flat brush here with or without the gingerbread paint on it, okay? I already have my gingerbread color on my brush, so I'm not going to rinse it. I'm just going to leave it on there. And let's put a little bit of this brown on the corner. And we always start with a little bit. You can add more later, okay? So you can see it's just on that corner of my brush. I'm going to face that brown on the outside of my train. So I'm facing it out and I'm laying my brush flat. Okay, I'm going to lay it flat and follow that edge. And you can see how it fades into my paint color. See that? So I have that dark shade, but then it fades out. And that's what I want to happen. I'm just going to follow that edge all the way around. Keep reloading your brush the exact same way. There it is. And add as much as you want. If you want that edge to be really dark, you can just keep adding more brown. Now I'm going to come up here and add that dark brown under my frosting to give it a shadow. This helps our painting have some dimension, right? So I like to follow anywhere that I feel there might be a little shadow with that brown. I'm going to go right around the frosting, so I'm looping my wrist as I go. I'm moving it in a smile shape. I'm going to come straight down here, follow that edge. There we go. Okay. Now the train actually comes straight across. So I'm going to follow the front of it around for the hood of the train here. Go straight across to separate it a little bit. There we go. I'm going to try and do a straight line across. Just like that. Just follow it across there. And then let's go under Santa's arm. Giving it another little shadow there, right? There we go. And we're going to go under the windowsill. Let's follow it around with that brown facing up under the windowsill and Santa's beard. Remember to brush flat. Sometimes we forget to do that. You'll point it up and then you won't get that fade into your paint. It won't blend in with your paint as well, okay? So you want to make sure you lay that brush flat as you go. Another really important thing to remember is that your bristles stay damp. Whenever you're floating, if your bristles are too dry, it will be a lot more difficult. So check your bristles. If you need to add some more water to them, do that, or maybe even some more paint. Okay, so I've gone all the way around here, and I'm going to follow Santa's hat here around and come down that edge. Looks awesome. Okay, let's go up here, follow this outside edge up with the brown facing out. And again, go under the frosting just to give it that shadow. There we go. I'm not going to worry about going around the windows too much. You have a border you're going to put around that window. So you can follow it if you want to with your paint, or you can leave it. That's up to you. I'm going to go on the other side now. Follow the bottom. Give it a shadow along that frosting. And then the outside edge of our train. You have to really try not to pick up your brush to get that line. Okay. I'm just going to follow it down. Go. Keep going down this side and around that edge on the bottom. You'll find you'll need to reload your brush quite often with this brown because you don't want it to get too thick or seize up on you when you're floating. Okay, now for the trickiest part. We just have to get around our wheels. And if you prefer not to, you don't have to. I like to put that shadow around the wheels. So I'm going to add it, but first go along the center part here. And then you can decide if you want to go around the wheels with me or not. So here's how we're doing our wheels. I'm going to put that brown on there. And we're doing the same thing. We're just going to try and focus that dark brown towards my wheel, okay? I'm just brushing around. If you paint inside your wheel a little bit, it's okay. We're going to paint them in a minute. That's why we're doing this first. Makes it a lot easier when you're putting that paint in your wheel to cover up any brown you may have gotten in it. See, I just followed around my wheel with that dark brown facing my wheel. I'm going to do it over here on this one too. This one's a little trickier because Santa's beard's in the way. Okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. You're just putting the shadow on there. There we go. And there you have it. You got your floating on there. Now this has taken me a lot of practice and time to learn. So if you need to pause for a minute and keep working on your shading around your wheels, or maybe you're outlining, it's okay. Go ahead and pause for just a second and meet me back here in a minute, okay? Because it does take a little bit of time to get that on there. I'm also going to add just a little bit to the very top here above my train. All right, I'm rinsing my brush out, getting ready for some lighter colors. So I want to make sure my brush is really clean. Now, if anything like this happens, if you come out just a little bit, just put a little more of your background color on and go along that edge and just clean it up. Because getting those straight lines, it's just hard. But you can always go back, see that? And clean up edges. It's no big deal. Okay, so let's get ready to do our white. I'm going to just put straight white on my wheels. And I'm going to get ready to do Santa's beard and all my frosting. Okay, so I'm rinsing my brush really well here, making sure it's all clean. And I'm going to take this brush here, my flat brush, and I'm putting some white on it. Okay. Now, depending on your wheels and your outline, I can just take some white here and quickly paint over it and still see my outline. See that through my white? If you're worried about losing that, then don't do it. Don't paint over them. You can just paint the outside edge with a line brush to clean it up, or you can paint each shape individually. It's just, I find it a lot easier if I don't use too much white. Okay, if it's too thick, you won't be able to see it, but if you don't use too much white, you can just quickly go around with a flat brush and clean up that wheel edge. But I prefer a flat brush, so if you like a detail brush, that works too to do that edge. those circles on there. Not an easy thing, okay? But this will clean it up pretty quickly and give you that layer of white. You just need one for your wheels. Okay, so I got that wheel done, and I can still see the outline through my paint. Now I'm going to go do my other wheel. Same way, just quickly putting that color on there. Now when you're doing a circle, the trick is to try not to pick up your brush as you're coming around those edges. So as I'm coming around the edge, I'm leaving that brush flat and following it. See that? All the way around. I'm just using my wrist to turn it. Like that. You can get really close too and actually focus on those details with a line brush, but I do find that a flat brush, if I can figure out how to go around without picking it up, makes it so much easier to get those circles on there. And these don't have to be perfect circles, you know, it's a painting, not a print, and sometimes we forget that. All those little imperfections are what make it unique. Okay, so there we go. We have our circles on there. We're going to go straight to our frosting. I'm going to come up here quickly with this white and just get a layer of white. Now all these little loops here, I'm creating a smile with my wrist as I go around. Okay, so I'm going to loop it with my wrist. Just like that. Do the same up here. Just covering it in white first. And I'm painting right over those circle shapes. Not too worried. I can see them, or we're going to paint them on later, so it's okay. Okay, now for the bottom, we're again looping it around like a smile shape all the way down. Quickly filling it in, because we're going to need to float again, and I need to have my paint wet. So I'm going quickly, looping it around, filling it in. All right, there we go. Sometimes our loops get out of hand. I get happy as I'm doing these. It's fun, and then I'll get them to where they're too big. So I have to slow down. There we go. All right. Okay, now let's give Santa's beard and his hat right here some white real quick while we have white on our brush. So I'm going to go here to the top of his hat. I'm going to paint it in with my white. That way it's all ready for me. Same with this little fluff ball here. Spin my brush around, get a circle shape. What a nice circle. Okay, and then I'm just going to paint his beard in with that white. It's ready to go. We have some other things to put on top of this, so you don't need to worry about having everything just right yet. Okay, we're just getting a layer of paint on here as a build up to the next step. Okay, now we're doing the fluff here on Santa's outfit and put some white on there. Fluff it up. There we go. Okay. Now make sure your brush is damp. You don't want it too thick with paint. You don't want that paint seizing up on your brush. So make sure you have just a little bit of water in there. You don't want it runny. Okay. And let's take our brush with the white on it and put just a tiny bit of turquoise here on the corner. Just like you did on the train. See that? It's just a little tiny bit. Start with a little bit. You can always add more later. Okay, and we're going to do the edges of our frosting. So I'm facing that turquoise outside on the outside edge, and I'm going to follow that edge as I go around. See that? And that's how I'm going to add my frosting. Go. I'm going to try not to pick up my brush as I loop it around. And if you want it thicker, go for it. You can add more blue than I am. I'm keeping mine pretty light. I'm going to go right around the top too. There you have it. So there's your frosting. That helps it stand out a little bit, right? Really brightens it up. Turquoise is just pretty. Okay, so we're going to follow that all the way over. Make sure I get the top lined for me. I have some wet brown there, it keeps grabbing. There we go. Okay. Brown doesn't want to leave me alone. All right. Okay, so now we're going to do the same thing over on the other side. Put a little bit of turquoise on the corner of your brush again, just like that. Okay, let's follow the outside edge. Just like that, okay? I'm going to loop it around. Follow along the top if you want to. Sometimes you got to make sure your paint is on your brush in the right place. Make sure you have that paint on that corner. If it starts to take over and you start to get all of your brush loaded, you got to stop, rinse, and add some more. So we really want to try and keep the focus on those edges so that our frosting stays white. All right. We about got it. I just follow the very top edge of my canvas with that blue. And that's it. I let it just land there. You can wrap your canvas if you want to with the blue. You can go all the way around, or you can leave it. All right. Also, it depends on how far up you want your smile to go. You can loop it up pretty high or keep it kind of small. Just move your wrist around as you go. There it is. Okay. And Santa's hat is going right there. Right over that frosting. Okay, now we're going to rinse our brush. Let that frosting dry for just a minute. Now you can use this larger brush if you want to do the windowsill. But I like to use a smaller one. It's easier for me to get into the small spaces. Okay, so I'm going to switch brushes to my detail brush really quick. So I'm going to rinse this flat brush out and switch over to my small detail brush. Looks like this. And I'm going to keep going with my turquoise, but I'm going to add just a little white to it and mix it in there, lighten it up a little bit. There we go, just like that. Okay, and I'm going to come over here with my detail brush and paint that windowsill. Follow Santa's beard around. It's just this tiny little corner poking out, just like that. Okay, so we're just going to fill it in, and I kind of curve the corners of my windowsill a little bit. You'll see that. If you want to square them off, you can. I'm going to go do this other little corner. around the beard, but it is definitely easier with this little detail brush. It just gets those corners for me without me working too hard. Okay, now to do the outline around the window, we're going to use the detail brush and just follow that edge. So I'm going to come straight down, trying to keep a straight line, right? And right along the top, just like that. Perfect. Let's let that dry for a minute. Okay. Make sure my brown is covered. Okay. All right, let's rinse our brush. Okay, and let's do some skin tone real quick for Santa's head, right? For his face here. Okay, to do the skin tone, I make my own. And to do that, I'm just going to use this gingerbread color that we have right here. Okay, so it's that brown and yellow that we mixed. And I'm going to add a lot of white to just a little bit of that brown and yellow. See that? And I just quickly get that skin tone. That's perfect. So his skin tone is your gingerbread color with lots of white, just like that. And you can kind of control it. You can make it darker if you want. And then we're just going to fill it in here underneath this hat. So you can decide if you want it darker or lighter. I went pretty light, as you can see here. Okay, we're going to paint his nose. Even though it's going to be pinker, we're going to go ahead and paint over it. Fill that in. I need a little bit more in there. There we go. It will be different every time you mix that skin tone shade because it just depends. It depends on how much of the brown and yellow you put in there. You can add a shadow under the hat if you want with a little bit of brown. You could float a little bit of a shadow or not. You could just leave it. That's really cute too. Okay, let's rinse our brush, let that dry a second. And we're going to go ahead and do our red. Okay, so my wheels I'm going to do first so they can start drying and then I'll work my way up. So let's just take some red here. I like to mix a touch of white with it usually, but you've already painted your wheels white, right? So if you haven't painted your wheels white and you're going straight into this, add a little bit of white to your red, okay? But if you've already painted them white, you probably won't need to. You just put red right on there. So I'm going to have my red on my detail brush, okay? And I'm going to start with the triangle facing the front of my train. I'm going to go ahead here and I like to outline it first. It gives me a nice clean edge for that outline. See that? Okay, so I always do the edge first and then I fill it in. So I'm going to go ahead and follow my edge around just like that. And then I fill it in. I'm going to do the next one. So I skip one as I go. Again, I'm doing that edge. Makes it so much easier when I fill it in. You can also do it with a flat brush and all at once if that's easier for you. Just depends on every artist and how we like to do things. So I'm going to follow this one around, especially when I'm doing circles and I need to get those edges just right. I like to outline them first. And then I'll show you here. So once I get those edges outlined, just like you would with a marker or a pencil, right? Okay, so once they're on there like that, Then I take my small flat brush and I quickly fill them in. And you'll notice that once your edges are done, this part goes really fast. Just like that. So now I can fill in that larger space. Now some artists can do this with a flat brush. I do that too. I will go around with a flat brush and it works great. But I like to teach beginner artists to do it this way just because sometimes it's a little easier to just get that clean stroke, you know? So you might find that to be the case. I already love it. Once you get these candies on here, these candy wheels, oh, so festive, right? Isn't that fun? Okay. It looks awesome. Okay, let's do our last wheel here. Same thing, I'm doing the one that faces the front of the train first, and I'm going to outline it. Always curve it like you're smiling with your brush. To keep that curve going, you're moving your wrist in a smile shape, right? Or a rainbow. Follow it around. Awesome. And we're doing these because we want this to dry for our glitter. I want to make sure it is ready. Okay, so now I'm going to take my flat brush again to fill in. Oh, you're right. Yep, I see it too. This right here, right? Didn't do that edge. That's important when you're doing these wheels. Don't want to miss that part. Okay, so I'm going to follow it. You probably caught it too. My artists usually do catch these things as I'm doing it. They're like, Miss Sarah, you forgot. I do. I forget things a lot. There we go. Now we're ready. Now take your flat brush and let's fill it in. Okay. That one. Let's do this next side. And our last one. And there they are. They look awesome. So good. Okay, now let's go ahead and go right up to Santa's hat. Okay, so we're going to go up here and just fill in Santa's hat real quick. Make sure that color's on there. Paint right over your frosting. And get right up close to Santa's hat. Fluff on there. I'm going to follow it around. And down. And don't worry about the edges too much. We're going to come back in a minute. We're just getting down to that fluff. Use your detail brush if you need to, right? It sure does come in handy sometimes. Okay, so we have our Santa's cute hat going on here. Curve it there to the fluff there. Perfect. Make sure I have a good amount of color on here. You can add white to your brush if you want to fill anything in. Whoop. If you need to cover anything, white does it. So I just see a little bit of my frosting showing through, so I'm adding a little white to my brush, going right over that, covering it up. So cute. Curve the top of that and fluff it over. Okay, there we go. We got it. Now we're going to do his arm. Just like that. Just a straight square shape coming down towards his beard, right? Just looks like a rectangle. I'm curving it. Oop, got a little red in his beard. That's okay. We're going to come straight down here by his beard. I'm using the toe of my brush. If that's too tricky, use that detail brush, right? Okay, and put that on there. All right, I think we're ready to rinse our brush and put our candies on there. And then do our finish up work. Make sure you have a good layer on there. So it's all ready to go and it's drying for your glitter. And there you have it. Okay, so we're gonna have Santa's hat drying. Have a good layer on everything. Perfect. I think we have all our red done, right? We have all the red done. So while I have red on my brush, I'm gonna make a dark pink for Santa's nose and his cheeks, okay? It's just slightly darker than my background, not a lot, so I'm just gonna add a touch of red to my background color here. Just get a slightly darker shade, okay? It's not a whole lot darker, just a little bit, just like that. And you can decide, you can change that if you want. And let's paint our first circle. I'm gonna take my flat brush here, and I'm just spinning it around in a circle, just like that. And that's my first one, okay? So if you try and just spin your flat brush, you'll get those easy circles. Or you can use your detail brush, right? Create your circle and then fill it in. So you do what works for you. Okay, now I'm going to take my detail brush and let's put some of that pink on our detail brush here. And let's paint in Santa's nose. There we go. Let's put his nose on there. It's just an oval shape or an egg shape. Like that. Okay. And then we have Santa's cheeks. Just right here. They're just kind of peeking up here by his mustache. So I'm just going to curve in a smile shape right here on each side of his mustache. Okay. Just like that for his little cheeks. So cute. Now if you want the pink to be a little lighter, just add white to it, or maybe you want it a little darker. It's up to you on that. Okay, there we go. We're going to let that dry. I'm rinsing my brush. Okay. And we're going to add his mouth. Now his mouth is red. More red with some white. So I'm just mixing a little more red in there. Okay, I'm going to come over here, create his smile, and just fill it in there right underneath. He's saying ho, ho, ho right here, right? And you, of course, can do it more red if you want. I kept mine a little more pink. There we go. We're putting that on now so we can finish our mustache. Okay, let that dry. All right, now we're going to go ahead and put the rest of our candies on up there. Okay, so you're going to have to rinse your brush as you go here. For every color, we got to rinse, right? Okay, so I'm going to do my next one. I've got our pink one up there. So my next color is going to be yellow, and I'm going to add some white to a little bit of yellow here, just to lighten it up a little bit. Okay, we're going to come up here and again, put that circle on, spin our brush around, just like that, get our circle on there, and then I'm going to come here to the front of my train and I'm going to paint that yellow candy for that light. Just like that, right? Okay. All right, so once that's done, now my green, I already have yellow on my brush, but to make that green, you want to take some yellow and a touch of turquoise and mix those together. There you have green, right? And a little bit of white. Always add just a touch of white to it. And there you have that really fun, bright, Christmassy green. So I'm going to come up here now and paint my green circle. Now the thing with green you should know is it's very transparent. Okay, so if you need to add one more layer, you can. You'll have to decide how dark you want it. There we go. Got our green circle on there, so I'm going to rinse my brush. Now our next one is purple, and to get purple, we're going to mix some turquoise with some red. Mix those together. See that pretty purple we get? And yes, I'm going to add some white to it too. Okay, but it's such a pretty purple, huh? And get that pretty purple. We're going to come up here and do another circle. Yep, so it's just turquoise and red to get that pretty purple color. Okay, awesome. Let's rinse our brush again. Our last color on there is orange, and of course to get orange we're mixing some red and yellow to get orange, and a touch of white, right? Come up here and put our last circle on. Orange is another color that is very transparent, so you might need another layer, or it might go on for you. But if you need to add white to it, white will help you get good coverage on that. All right, there's all of Santa's candies up there lined up on his train. So we're going to rinse our brush, let those dry for just a second. Now the other little candies over here that we have, they're just using the back of our brush. So I flip my brush around and use the back, okay? And I'm going to put any colors that I want on there. So I want a pink one. So I'm going to get my pink here, and you see I have my chocolate chip, right? I'm going to come up here and just kind of stamp my pink on there. And then I have a red one too. But you will have to rinse your, or wipe off that end of your brush as you go here, right? So when you do a new color, you don't mix them. Now I'm going to do my yellow. I have a yellow one right here. You really have to get a good chocolate chip to get that stamp on there. There we go. Okay, and I have another yellow one, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. I did one over here as well. I'm going to stamp that on there, wipe off my brush, get my next color, which is green. Okay, I'm going to put my green on here. Let's see, I have one more green over here, so I'm going to go ahead and put that one on too. Trying to get my good circle on there, huh? Good dot. Wipe off your brush for the next one. Got, let's see, I have a purple one here. And I've got purple right up here on my green. Go. I'm going to wipe off my brush again. I'm going to put my red one. I have one red one. Or orange. You could do orange if you want. I'm going to do orange. There we go. Get my mix here. I'm going to put my orange one right here. There we go. Cute. This green isn't wanting to go on for me. I'm going to try it again. See if I can get it to go stick on there. There it goes. All right, let's let those dry a second. Those little dots will have to dry really good for us for our glitter. So I always get those on there so they can dry while we finish up. Okay, so let's get our detail brush. Let those dry. And let's finish up our Santa. So we have his glove and it's black. So I'm going to put some black on my detail brush. Okay, and we're first just going to outline our glove. A nice shape before we fill it in. There we go. Okay, fill in Santa's glove. Perfect. Nothing to that really, huh? Just putting that color in there. I'll add the rest in a minute. Okay. So we have Santa's glove. Now let's add his eyes. I'm going to come over here and use my detail brush. Just go it around and give it a nice circle first. Just like that. And do his other one. I always do the outline and then I'll fill it in. Just like that. Looks kind of scary. And then we'll fill it in. There we go. Both sides. You don't want to mess too much with these circles, let me tell you. They get big really fast, so you kind of have to know when to say, I'm done. Done with the circles, okay? Okay. Now with Santa, with his little mustache here, I'm just going to come right up and around for an outline, and this is all I'm doing for the outline. Because that's it, okay? And let that dry a minute. Let's take our flat brush, let the eyes and everything dry. Okay, now for Santa's beard, we're going to take this white on our brush, just like this. I have white. Now you can make it gray if you want to, or you can load up your brush with white and put a little black on it. Okay, either way works. I can make a little gray here by mixing white and black together. Put it on the corner edge of my brush again, just like you did before, right? And we're going to follow the outside edge of Santa's beard. And the reason we're doing this is so that you can see it. Otherwise it gets kind of hidden, right? If you like just a white beard without that edge done, you don't have to do this. This is totally up to you. I had a little red in my brush, so I had to rinse it really quick. Okay. So you can kind of decide how much you want. There we go. Just going to follow that edge. I'm not too worried about it being perfect. Okay. Just gives it a little bit of an outline so you can see that it's there. And that's really all we're going for. There we go. Come down the other side next to Santa's hat. Perfect. Okay, follow his beard around. I just curve the edges a little bit and decide how much you want to curve them to make it kind of fluffy, right? Just following it all the way around here to the top. Okay, now I'm doing the same thing for his mustache as I just did for his beard, okay? So instead of outlining it, I'm just going to follow that edge of his beard with my gray and let it be. It just kind of comes up. I'm not worried about getting that perfect shape or anything. Just curving my brush in a smile and letting it be. And do it along the top here so you can see it. Otherwise it kind of gets lost, right? And there you go. There's his beard. And let's see, finish up his hat. Make sure we go over the red. If you accidentally painted into the red, I always like to take some white. Just go over that. Now you can float some of that gray in his hat as well, or you can just leave it. There we go. Same with that little puff ball over here, right? You can see if you add that gray, how you can see it better, right? And do a little bit over here on his fluffy sleeve. Okay, all we have left is our highlighting. And you can outline a little bit. I like to outline just a little bit here of his fluff on his sleeve so you can see it, so it doesn't get lost there in the train. I didn't outline all of it, just the base. I curved it a little bit, just like that. And then I added a little bit of dark along the bottom wherever he might have a shadow showing up, just like that. And his beard. Just did a little bit on this side. And a little along the bottom of his hat here. Got a little bit of white on there. There we go. Like that. I just curve it around, give him a smile there. Okay. And if you want more to be showing off here on his hat, it's the same thing. Just outline the edges that you want to be seen. Okay. So I'm just going to follow this edge here around. Let it fade out. Same on this side. Just follow it around. Just like that. And then you can kind of see it up against everything, right? You don't lose it. Okay. Now let's rinse our brush out. We're going to flip it around to add the light in Santa's eyes. So I use the back of my brush and I dip it in my white here. I'm going to do 2 little dots in Santa's eyes. One there, just to give him a little bit of a reflection. So cute. And then, if you want to, you can add a little bit of turquoise to the bottom of his eye. I just put a little smile here, just like that. On the inside of his eye there. That's a little highlight. I love it. I rinse my brush. So we can add some eyebrows. So now this is where we add our highlighting, okay? And I love adding highlighting. It just brightens it up. We're going to start with our eyebrows. Just add some white to your brush. Okay? Give him some fluffy white eyebrows here. Right above his eye. Just curve it. There we go. Just like that. Not super noticeable, but I had to add it. I love it. Okay. Now I'm going to take some white and add a little bit to the top of his nose. Just like that. A little bit inside his mouth. Awesome. Put more white in here where I smeared it, huh? Oh, you can always do that later. Okay, now for the rest of this highlighting, you can float it, or you can use a detail brush like we've been doing. So you can float the white, or you can take this detail brush and add the highlighting with a little tiny line here. It just looks a little bit different, but it still gives it a great result. Okay, so you can follow it along that way, I'll show you both ways. I love to do it with my floating. It's just it's easier for me, right? So floating looks just slightly different. You can see how it fades into the hat. Whereas over here, it's more of a line, right? So both are great. They just have a little bit of a different look to them. Okay, so you decide which one you prefer. I'm going to put some here on the top of the sleeve where that light might be hitting it. Just like that. Making sure I don't have any red in my brush because we're going to go up here now and add the white highlight to each of our circles. So I put a little bit of white on the corner, or again, you can use a detail brush. And I'm just curving the letter C all the way down. So in each one, I just curve my brush and give it that highlight all the way down. On each one, perfect. Okay, make sure my brush is clean. Add a little bit of white to that corner again, like that. Okay, now for the train, let's start here. Let's get the yellow. I just put a little bit of white on the very edge of it, just like that. Okay, and for the train, I'm going to put this white around the wheel. So I just follow the wheel around with that white facing out. Okay, just like that. I'm going to do the other side, same way. The white is facing out, and I just curve it so that highlight's showing. Awesome. Okay. And I'm going to add a little bit here to this edge. Like that. And I'll add some here along this outside edge of my train, just to draw attention to it and really lighten it up. Just like that. Love it. Okay. Last highlight is my wheels. Well, I actually have the hand, but I'm going to do these wheels. All I'm going to do is follow it around too with my white, and I'm going to create that C shape inside my wheel to give it that glistening candy look. I'm going to do it on both of them here. So I'm going to do this one too. Just the letter C right there. Just like that. Perfect. So cute. And now I'm just going to add some to my Santa's glove. I put a little bit along the top like that in a rainbow shape. Now for the center of the hand, I do another little rainbow shape in the middle. And then just a little bit on the top of his thumb. And there you have it, guys. You did it. It's adorable. I love it. I hope you love it too. I hope you had a lot of fun. You can keep going and keep adding cute little things, finishing touches. I put a little brown right there. Anything that's light, I like to add a little bit of brown so it stands out. So you can do the same thing around your wheels if you want to, or just leave them, right? But you can keep playing and having fun with your train. I'm going to sign my name because as artists, we are so proud of ourselves, right? We just worked really hard and we did something awesome. Okay, so I'm going to sign my name and then I'm going to do my glitter. But I want my name on there because I want that paint on here to dry totally before I glitter it. Okay, so if you want to wait just a minute, give it a sec. I'm going to put my name over here. There we go. Put my name, find a little spot. Okay, and another thing you can add if you want to, get your big brush, whatever size you want, and add some snowflakes. It's another fun little touch. You just use the back of your brush and just stamp those snowflakes on there using white. I add glitter later to these Once it's totally dry, you can glitter up those snowflakes. But you can just put as many as you want. I'm going to put some over here. You just stamp them. Stamp them on there as you go down. Make it kind of a blustery day. There we go. Okay, so if you have our paint kit, you'll have this glitter. If not, it's a fun acrylic glaze that we use with lots of glitter in it. You can get it at most craft stores, and we just paint it on as you would regular paint. So I just load up my brush with it, okay? And you can glitter whatever you want, but I really focused my glitter on the candy and then Santa's fluffy hat. So I covered Santa's hat in this fun glitter to make it magical and sparkly. And his fluff on his sleeve here, okay? And also in the circle fluff on his hat there. Put it there. And you can't really see it, but it dries really glittery, okay? Now, you want to make sure everything's dry before you cover it in glitter. Otherwise, it'll smear all your hard work. So, if you need to wait a minute before you glitter it, go for it. Mine dried pretty quick. So, I'm going to go ahead now and put my glitter on there. But you just want to make sure yours is dry. Okay, and then I'm going to add it to my wheels, for my glittery wheels. I love it, just makes it so Christmassy. I'll put it on this one. The only one I'm nervous about is this one here because I don't think it's completely dry yet. So I'm going to be very, very careful when I'm glittering this one. If yours is totally dry, you can just quickly go right over those spots and cover them with glitter. If not, just be really careful. Okay, and then just use the back of your brush again with that glitter to do all your little your snowflakes. Stamp your snowflakes with glitter so they're super sparkly. And once your white's on there, this goes on really quick. You just stamp right over the top of it the same way. So you can see I'm just getting that glitter on the back of my brush and I'm stamping it wherever I want. Those glittery snowflakes. And there you have it, guys. You did it. I love it. I hope you had a good time painting with us. Okay, and give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed yourself. We hope to see you again. We'd love to see your painting, so give us a tag. Just hashtag my little paintbrush. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.